Rising from the eastern end of Yakima Valley, Red Mountain gets its name from the seasonal hue of cheatgrass that blankets the slopes. More like a rounded ridge or butte than an actual mountain, with elevations ranging from 500 to a mere 1,500 feet above sea level. Red Mountain's profile does dominate the local landscape. The area offers excellent conditions for growing fine quality wine grapes. Nearly ideal climate conditions, great heat unit accumulation, and very strong growing season winds combine with alkaline soils to make for a terroir that is distinctive among Washington's AVAs.
Red Mountain is in a really interesting location in the state because it's right where several of the large AVAs come together. Red Mountain is right at the lower end of the Yakima Valley AVA. That's Rattlesnake Ridge in the distance. Over to the south here to my right is the up on the skyline we can see the upper part of the brand new Horse Heaven Hills AVA. And to the east of me here, just a few miles away, is the Columbia Valley appellation as well, or AVA. And so Red Mountain sits right at a kind of a convergence point of some of the key growing areas of the state. Red Mountain is generating a lot of excitement among wine enthusiasts and the wine growers in Washington state. And what we can see out here today is a combination of developed vineyards and sagebrush land. I can guarantee you that in a very short few years that many more vineyards will be developed here. Some of the most prestigious wineries compete for fruit from the Red Mountain AVA. The combination here of geologic bench, which tilts to the south gently, which exposes the fruit to very intense summer sun and sun during the ripening period to account for that, and also the geology of this area, which has to do with floodwaters from Lake Missoula. Floodwaters came swirling in here in the back eddies of Red Mountain. This was on the downstream side of the flowing water. Huge drifts of boulders were laid in here, sand and silt and a variety of materials, creating quite a complex pattern of soils, and the vineyard managers use that and are learning to use that to plant different varieties and different textures of soils and different soil depths, and getting amazing results.
In addition to scant water, high pH levels in the soil inhibit nutrient uptake, so the canopy remains small and the energy is focused into small fruit clusters. Some of Washington State's most prestigious vineyards are located within Red Mountain, including Hedges Family Estate, Ciel du Cheval, Kiona Vineyards, and Taptil. Pete and Tom Hedges of Hedges Family Estate specialize in creating bold, masculine Bordeaux-style blends made from estate-grown grapes.
Not typical for around most of the rest of Washington State. Here it is, and that smaller berry size gives us much more flavor and more structure, more typical of a Cabernet. It's great fruit to work with, makes great deep concentrated wines with fairly structured wines that will last a long time.
Physically, we don't get as much water as a lot of other places, and the soil itself is very light with not much water retention, and so you tend to get very stressed vines.
Right.
And you don't want a big crop. A big crop would not, couldn't be supported by the amount of water we have. So this is just what we want right there. Yeah. Good sized cluster, not too many of them. Nice shading, no sunburn, no scraping up of the skins or wilting or raisoning or anything. It's just right.
One of the common denominators of Red Mountain wines is concentration and structure typically. So when you're making a Red Mountain wine, you don't want to make a light fruity wine. You're just working against nature. If you do things right, you don't mess them up, you're going to get a big, dark, concentrated wine with great fruit. And that's what Red Mountain has done. I tell you, it's easy to do, really, in comparison to a lot of other places in the world, because the fruit is so phenomenally good.
Renowned for its complex and elegant wines, Ciel du Cheval appears near the top of the list for most wine lovers.
We're here in Ciel du Cheval Vineyard. looking at Cabernet Sauvignon grapes that'll probably be harvested in the next few days, their sugar content is just about up to where they want them, and the other characteristics of the grapes. There's some unique aspects of the vines here in Ciel de Cheval. The experience of 30 years or so of growing grapes that Jim Holmes has. He uses a fan training system here where he's got several permanent trunks that create a fan shape. One of the experiences that he's had with the really intense sunlight on the grapes here is that instead of the really severe training of the canes that we see in a lot of vineyards in a lot of areas, because of the heat and the possibility of damaging the fruit from too much sunshine, he's got this more open canopy or loose canopy with the canes draping over the fruit so that you get dappled sun on the grapes, and he feels like he gets a much better product out of that. One of the things about the soils here is that they vary a lot in texture, but the soils here are really a beautiful deep loam for this vineyard, and it's a well-drained soil so that he can practice what's known as a controlled deficit irrigation, and that allows him to control the vigor of the vines. You can see that as the vine has grown this year, as the canes have grown, what's known as the internode length was very, very broad in the early parts of the growing season. The canes were growing rapidly, and then they began to restrict water to the vines as it began to develop its fruit, and you can see that the internode length here shortens progressively as they control the water and put the vine into a bit of stress, and that is telling the vine physiologically to put its energy into the quality of the fruit, the ripeness of the fruit, and that's something that people are really working on in perfecting their grape growing techniques here on Red Mountain and elsewhere.
So when we look at the AVAs of Washington, we've got the Yakima Valley, and then right next door is Red Mountain, and then you go down further south to the Tri-Cities. So these are all right near each other. So can we really tell, is there a difference in the wines in the glass? Well, let me go back to France for a minute, okay? And let me go back to Burgundy. Now, Burgundy has vineyards that are quite small, a lot smaller than here in Washington. And they're side by side. You can throw a stone across one, and they have differences, and you can taste them in the glass. They have marked differences. And at first I was skeptical. And when you taste them, you will know. So the best way to learn is to actually get out there and try them for yourself, because you will see that this Yakima Valley wine, put it side by side with its Red Mountain counterpart, they have the differences. So it's one thing for me to tell you, but to really get it, go out and taste it.
As a result of terroir, wines produced from Red Mountain grapes tend to be bold, with strong tannins and well-balanced flavors that can be readily distinguished from the fruit of other regions.